The moment that changed everything started with something so small, so stupid, that I almost laughed at myself for even noticing it. A single red sock. Not mine. Not hers. Just sitting in the laundry like it belonged there. Like it hadn't just ripped open a wound in my reality. I wasn't the kind of guy who checked the laundry. I barely remembered to throw my own clothes in. But that day, I was looking for a clean shirt, and there it was. A man's sock, mixed in with our things. At first, I told myself it had to be mine. Maybe I forgot I bought it. Maybe it had been stuck somewhere in the machine for weeks. But then I picked it up, and something in my brain clicked. I don't own red socks. I stood there in our tiny laundry room, the dryer humming, that single sock burning a hole through my hand. The air felt too thick. My ears started ringing. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was nothing. But the doubt had already sunk its teeth in. I walked out of the laundry room like a ghost, my body moving on autopilot. Emily was in the kitchen, sipping her coffee like it was any other morning, scrolling on her phone with that soft, content look she always had. For a second, I just stared at her, trying to convince myself that this wasn't what I thought it was, that I wasn't about to set fire to my entire life over a piece of fabric. But then she did something that broke me. Her phone lit up, and for a split second, her whole face changed. It was subtle, barely there. A flicker of something guilty. She tilted her phone away from me, and that was it. That tiny, unconscious movement shattered everything. "Who's that?" I asked, my voice calm. Too calm. She looked up at me, blinking like she hadn't heard me. "Huh." I held up the sock. "This yours?" She frowned. "What? No. Why would I have?" Then she laughed. Laughed. "Oh my God. Is this a jealousy thing? Babe, I don't know where that came from." She rolled her eyes and went back to her phone. "Probably stuck to our laundry from the laundromat or something. You're being weird." It was a perfect response. Too perfect. She didn't ask whose it was. Didn't seem curious at all. Just shut it down like it was the dumbest thing in the world. And maybe it was. Maybe I was crazy. So I forced myself to let it go. I had work that morning. I left the house in a daze, my brain stuck in an endless loop of what if. But I told myself I was overreacting. That I was being paranoid. That Emily was right, I was being weird. And then, at 3:17 p.m., while sitting at my desk, I got the text that ripped my reality apart. "You forgot your watch again. It's on the nightstand. Love you." I stared at my phone, my stomach lurching, because I hadn't forgotten my watch. I was wearing it. And if my watch was on our nightstand, then whose watch had she just found? I don't remember getting up from my desk. I don't remember grabbing my keys. All I remember is the drive home. Blurry streetlights, the suffocating tightness in my chest, the sound of my own breathing too loud in my ears. I parked the car so fast the tires screeched. My hands were shaking as I shoved the key into the lock, my heartbeat slamming against my ribs. The house was quiet. Too quiet. The moment I stepped into our bedroom, my eyes went straight to the nightstand. And there it was. A man's watch. Not mine. Not even close. It was bulky, expensive, the kind of thing a man wears when he wants people to know he's got money. My whole body went cold. I reached out, picked it up, turned it over in my hand. The weight of it felt wrong. The back was engraved. To J. With love, E. The floor dropped from beneath me. Emily. I didn't hear her come in. Didn't notice her standing in the doorway until she said, "What are you doing home?" Her voice was too casual, too smooth, but I could see it. The flicker of panic in her eyes. The way her grip tightened on her purse. I turned, holding up the watch. "You tell me." For a split second, she froze. Then a laugh. Short, breathy, forced. "Oh my God. Babe, you scared me. That's just..." Jesus, I was holding it for Jessica. She's been seeing this guy, and she didn't want her boyfriend to find out. So I told her she could try again. The lie cracked before she even finished saying it. She knew it. I knew it. But she kept going. "I swear. It's not what you think. Whose watch is this?" I asked, my voice too steady. She swallowed. Her eyes darted around the room, like she was searching for an escape hatch. And then, just like that, she changed tactics. Her expression hardened. Her lips curled into a smirk. And she said the words that ripped me apart. "Why do you care? It's not like you've ever been good in bed anyway. Silence. A heavy, brutal silence. She took a step closer, tilting her head, eyes gleaming with something dark, something cruel. Honestly, my ex was better than you. Way better. I really settled for less. I smiled, put down the watch, and then I said, "Funny you say that. Your divorce papers are already on the way." For a moment, she didn't react. She just stared at me, blinking, as if the words hadn't quite registered. Then, the smirk melted off her face like wax. "What?" I slipped my hands into my pockets, tilting my head slightly. "You heard me." She let out a breathless laugh, but there was something desperate behind it now. "You're being dramatic." I didn't answer. I just watched her. Her fingers twitched against her purse. She took a step forward, then stopped. Her throat bobbed as she swallowed, her brain working overtime to catch up. I wasn't playing. "You're not serious." I smiled. "I am." A flicker of something flashed through her eyes. Panic? No, rage. Pure, burning rage. "You're such a child," she snapped, throwing her hands up. "You're really going to ruin our marriage over a stupid watch? Over something that doesn't even matter?" I took a slow breath. "I don't think it's the watch that ruined our marriage, Emily." She rolled her eyes so hard I thought she might strain a muscle. "Oh, get over yourself. This is why I had to look somewhere else. You're so self-righteous, always acting like you're above everyone. You really think you're some perfect husband." I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. The silence pissed her off more than any words could. "Fine," she spat. "You want to know the truth? Yeah, I cheated. And guess what? I don't even regret it." Something in my chest snapped. But I kept my face neutral, my voice even. "That's good." She frowned. "What?" I pulled my phone out of my pocket, tapped the screen, and turned it around. The little red dot was still blinking, recording. Her face drained of color. You don't regret it," I repeated. "Perfect. Because now you won't regret losing everything." For the first time, real fear flashed in her eyes. "You're not serious." I slipped my phone back into my pocket and stepped toward her. Slow, deliberate. She backed up instinctively, her confidence crumbling. "You think I haven't seen through you for months? You think I haven't been preparing for this?" I chuckled, shaking my head. "I already spoke to a lawyer. The divorce papers are drawn up. You'll get them tomorrow." She opened her mouth, then closed it. Her hands were shaking now. You can't just throw everything away like this," she stammered. We built a life together." I exhaled slowly, like I was considering it. Then I smiled. "No, Emily, you threw it away. I'm just cleaning up the mess." Her breathing hitched. Her face twisted into something ugly, something desperate. And then she lunged, not to hit me but for my phone. I stepped back, and she stumbled, nearly falling to the floor. "Give it to me." Her voice was shrill now. "Delete it." I tilted my head. "Or what?" And that's when she did something I never expected. She grabbed the lamp from the nightstand and threw it at me. I barely had time to react. The lamp shattered against the wall inches from my head, glass exploding in every direction. I felt a sharp sting on my arm, just a shallow cut, but I barely registered it. Emily had just thrown a damn lamp at me. For a second, we both froze. Her chest was heaving, her eyes wild with panic. Like even she couldn't believe what she'd just done. And then she doubled down. "Give me the phone!" she screamed, lunging at me again. This time I was ready. I dodged, grabbed her wrist, and spun her around, pinning her arms against her sides. She thrashed, trying to break free, but I held firm. "Are you insane?" I hissed into her ear. "You don't get to do this to me!" she shrieked, struggling like a trapped animal. "You don't get to ruin my life." Her life? I let out a cold, humorless laugh and released her, shoving her away. She stumbled, catching herself against the dresser, her face twisted in rage. "Ruin your life?" I repeated. "Emily, you ruined your own damn life." She was breathing hard now, her hands gripping the dresser like she wanted to rip it apart. And then, just like that, the rage melted away, replaced by something worse: manipulation. Her eyes softened, her lip trembled, and in the most pathetic, fake voice I'd ever heard, she whispered, Please, don't do this. I almost laughed in her face. I had seen this act before. It used to work on me. Used to make me cave, make me doubt myself. But this time it was just pathetic. I shook my head, disgust curling in my stomach. Save it. Her expression cracked. She realized it wasn't working. And then her phone buzzed. The sound was so small, so insignificant. But in that moment it was a gunshot. We both heard it. We both knew. I reached for it first. She dove. We hit the floor together, her nails digging into my arm as she tried to pry the phone away. But I was stronger. I wrenched it from her grip and rolled away, unlocking it with ease. And there it was. A message from Jay. Did you tell him yet? Or do I need to stay hidden under the bed forever? I blinked. My pulse stopped. Slowly, mechanically, I turned my head toward the bed. Emily must have realized too late what the text said because she lunged at me again. But I was already moving. I grabbed the edge of the mattress and lifted it. And there he was. A half-naked man curled up under our bed like a roach caught in the light. For a second, no one moved. Then he grinned. Hey man. Silence. A thick, suffocating silence. I stared. He grinned. Like this was some kind of joke. Like he wasn't half-naked under my bed. In my house with my wife. Emily let out a strangled noise. Half gasp. Half sob. Maybe she thought she could still salvage this. Maybe she thought if she cried hard enough, I'd miraculously forget the fact that another man had been hiding in our bedroom like some pathetic horror movie villain. But my eyes were locked on him. Jay. The watch. The text. The idiot under my bed. He had dark, slicked-back hair, that perfectly groomed stubble, and a smug look that made my fists twitch. This was her type? A sleazy wannabe finance bro who probably said things like, "Let's circle back." In meetings? I let out a breath, slow and measured, as my entire body thrummed with something violent. He shifted, still on the floor, still half-dressed, rubbing the back of his neck like he'd just gotten caught sneaking an extra cookie before dinner. So, this is awkward. Something in my head snapped. I lunged. Emily screamed. Jay tried to scramble out from under the bed, but he wasn't fast enough. I grabbed him by the collar and yanked him out, dragging him across the hardwood like a damn ragdoll. Hey, chill, man. Chill. He yelped, hands flying up. Let's be adults about this. I threw him, not punched, threw. He hit the dresser with a dull thud before collapsing to the ground in a heap, gasping like a dying fish. Emily was shrieking behind me. Something about, "Oh my God! Stop! Please!" But her voice barely registered, because Jay wasn't grinning anymore. He was coughing, one hand pressed to his ribs, his cocky mask gone. "What the hell is wrong with you?" he wheezed. I crouched down, grabbing a fistful of his sweat-damp shirt, and yanked him forward until we were nose to nose. "Get out!" His eyes darted to Emily, pleading. She did nothing. I yanked him again. I said, "Get out." Jay scrambled to his feet so fast he nearly tripped. He grabbed his crumpled pants from the floor and bolted, not even bothering to put them on. The front door slammed. Silence. And then, just as I turned toward Emily, just as I opened my mouth to speak, she slapped me. Hard.my head snapped to the side. A dull, stinging heat spread across my cheek. She had slapped me. For a few seconds, I just stood there, staring at the floor, tasting copper in my mouth. The sheer audacity of it made my fingers twitch. I slowly turned back to her. Emily was breathing hard, her chest rising and falling like she'd just run a marathon. Her face was twisted, her hands shaking. But it wasn't guilt. It wasn't remorse. It was rage. Like I was the problem. Like I was the one who had destroyed everything. "You're a monster," she spat, her voice shaking. "I can't believe you did that. You attacked him like some kind of psycho." I blinked at her. Psycho? She had a man hiding under our bed and I was the psycho? I exhaled, slow and controlled. "You're unbelievable." Her lips curled into something bitter, something ugly. "Oh, shut up. You think you're some kind of hero? You think you're so much better than me." "I know I am." The words came out sharp, cutting. Her nostrils flared. "God, you're such a..." She let out a frustrated, animalistic growl, shoving her hands into her hair. Then she started laughing. Not funny laughing, unhinged laughing, like she had completely lost it. "You don't get it, do you?" she said between breaths. "You never got it. You were always so obsessed with being the perfect husband. But you were so. She waved her hands around, searching for the word. So boring. I just stared at her. She took a step forward, eyes blazing. "You never made me feel anything." There it was. The truth. The rotten, ugly truth. She wanted drama, chaos. She wanted toxic fights and passionate breakups and make-up intimacy in the backseat of a car. She never wanted stability. Never wanted me. I took a deep breath, staring at this woman I had once loved. And I felt nothing. No sadness. No grief. No heartbreak. Just a calm, settling realization. I had wasted years of my life on her. And I was done. "Pack your stuff," I said, voice even. "You're leaving tonight." She scoffed. "You can't kick me out of my own house." I smiled. "It's not your house anymore." Then, I pulled my phone from my pocket, scrolled through my messages, and hit send. Her phone buzzed. She glanced down at the screen, then back at me, confused. Then she read it, and the color drained from her face. Because I had just sent her the prenuptial agreement she signed 5 years ago. The one that left her with nothing. For the first time since this entire nightmare started, she looked scared. Her phone trembled in her hands as she scrolled through the document, her face turning paler with each passing second. She was rereading it, looking for a loophole, a way out. There wasn't one. I had made sure of it. I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, watching the reality crash down on her. "You really should have read the fine print, Emily." She sucked in a breath, shaking her head. No, this isn't real." "Oh, it's real." Her hands clenched into fists. She looked up at me, something between desperation and fury twisting her face. "You tricked me." I barked out a laugh. "I tricked you? You were the one sneaking around like a cheap soap opera villain, hiding men under our bed. You did this to yourself." "I wasn't happy," she screamed suddenly, voice cracking. I needed more. I needed excitement." I tilted my head, pretending to think. "Well, this is pretty damn exciting, isn't it?" Her breathing hitched. She was losing control. "You can't just throw me out," she hissed, stepping toward me. "I have nowhere to go." I smiled. "Not my problem." Her face twisted in pure hatred. She opened her mouth, probably to hurl another insult, but then she stopped. Her eyes narrowed, and I saw it. The shift, the gears in her head turning, the manipulation crawling back in. She softened. Her shoulders slumped. Her lip trembled. She took a tiny, hesitant step toward me. "Babe." "Oh, hell no." "Nope." I held up a hand. "We're not doing this." She blinked, caught off guard. "Doing what?" "The waterworks. The fake regret. The whole I'm lost without you act." I smirked. "I know you, Emily. You don't feel bad about cheating. You feel bad that you got caught." She swallowed hard, her throat tightening. For the first time, she had no comeback. Nothing to say. I stepped forward, closing the space between us. "Now get your stuff, and get out." She stared at me. For a second, I thought she might actually hit me again. But then her face hardened, and she said something that made my blood run cold. "You'll regret this." A chill ran down my spine, because she didn't say it in anger. She said it like a promise. I should have expected it. I should have known that a woman like Emily, a woman who could smile in my face while sneaking another man into my bed, wouldn't just walk away quietly. But I didn't expect her to move so fast. It started within the hour. She disappeared into the bedroom, slamming the door shut so hard the walls shook. For a moment, I thought she was finally packing her things. That maybe, just maybe, she'd accepted her fate. I was dead wrong. A few minutes later, I heard her voice. Muffled, urgent. She was on the phone. I pressed my ear to the door, listening. "Just come over." "No, now. I don't care what you're doing. He's throwing me out. He's being crazy. You need to get here before he does something." I froze. "Before I do what?" She was setting the stage. I could see it in my head. The crocodile tears, the fake bruises, the gasps of, "I was so scared," when someone came to her rescue. I clenched my jaw, forcing myself to breathe. I was prepared for her anger. I was prepared for her begging. But this was next-level manipulation. And I needed to move faster. I strode to the front door, locked it. Then I grabbed my phone and started typing. To my lawyer, she's trying something. If she calls the cops, I want security footage pulled ASAP. To my friend, Mark, come to my house now. Emily's about to pull some crazy stunt, and I need a witness. By the time I hit send, I heard the bedroom door creak open. Emily stepped out, her face perfectly composed. Too composed. I'm going to shower, she said smoothly, like we hadn't just been in a war zone. I'll be gone soon. I didn't answer. She disappeared into the bathroom, and I heard the water turn on. My gut told me something was wrong. And then my phone buzzed. A notification from my bank. You have requested a $10,000 transfer to Emily S. I stared at the screen. My stomach dropped. That B*TCH was trying to rob me. For a second, all I could do was stare at the notification. My brain refused to process it. Emily was in the shower, acting like she was cooling off, like she was finally accepting reality. While in the background, she was actively trying to rob me. $10,000. I snapped out of it. Moved. In 3 strides, I was in the bedroom, grabbing her phone off the dresser. Unlocked. Stupid. She was in such a rush. She didn't even think to hide it. And there it was. Her banking app, still open. The pending transaction to her account. My jaw tightened. I hit cancel. Then, just to be sure, I went into my own banking app and froze my accounts. She wasn't getting a single cent. By the time the water shut off, I was back in the living room, sitting on the couch like nothing had happened. My phone in one hand, a glass of water in the other. She walked out a few minutes later, hair wrapped in a towel, wearing my sweatshirt, still acting. So, she sighed, sitting on the armrest of the couch. I thought about it, and maybe we don't have to do this like enemies. I took a slow sip of my water. Oh? She nodded, forcing a small smile. I mean, yeah, we had a rough day, but do we really need to go straight to lawyers? Maybe we can talk first. Figure something out. Figure something out. I let the words sit in the air between us. She thought she still had a chance. I tilted my head, watching her carefully. You mean, like a settlement? Her eyes flickered, just for a second. But I saw it. Hope. That greedy, calculating little flicker of hope. She nodded too quickly. Exactly. We don't need to go nuclear. We were together for years. You don't really want to leave me with nothing, do you? I smiled. Good point. Then, I pulled out my phone, scrolled a little, and turned the screen toward her. The bank notification. The canceled transfer. Her face drained of color. I watched as she connected the dots. The tiny shift in her breath. The way her fingers dug into her knees. The way her whole act crumbled in real time. I leaned in, my voice dropping to something cold. You're not just a liar, Emily. You're a thief. She shot up from the couch. That's not what it looks like. I chuckled. No, because it looks like you were trying to rob me before running off into the sunset with your little side piece. Her breathing was fast now, erratic. She knew she was cornered. And I wasn't done. I stood up, stepped closer, my voice low and dangerous. I was willing to just let you go. No cops, no mess, just a clean break. I took another step. She backed away. But now, I smiled. Now I think you deserve a little more. And then I called the police. Emily's face collapsed. Not in sadness. Not in regret. In pure, undiluted panic. Wait! Wait! She shrieked, lunging at me, hands grasping for my phone. But I was faster. I stepped back, pressing the call button. Ring. Her breathing turned shallow. Ring. Her hands shook. Ring. Her entire mask, her carefully constructed web of lies, was unraveling at the seams. And then, 911, what's your emergency? Emily cracked. She dropped to her knees. Please, she sobbed, hands clasped together like she was praying. Don't. Please, I wasn't thinking. I just wanted something for myself before I left. It wasn't like that, I swear. I didn't speak. I just watched her. The same woman who had laughed in my face, called me boring, weak, nothing, was now a sobbing mess on the floor. Hello? The operator's voice rang in my ear. Emily crawled closer, grabbing onto my pant leg like a desperate child. I'll leave. I'll be gone tonight. You don't have to do this. Please. And that's when it hit me. She wasn't crying because she felt bad. She was crying because she got caught. I had already won. Slowly, calmly, I raised the phone back to my ear. Sorry, wrong number. I hung up. Emily let out a shuddering breath, her body sagging in relief. I crouched down, just enough to meet her puffy, swollen eyes. And in the softest, coldest voice I had ever used, I whispered, "Pack your things. If you're still here in an hour, I'll make that call again." She scrambled to her feet. She didn't argue, didn't try to fight back, because she knew I had nothing left to say to her, and she had nowhere left to run. She was gone by midnight. By morning, I had changed the locks, called the lawyer, and sent every single detail of her failed theft to her parents, her friends, hell, even her boss. She wanted excitement, drama. She got it. And me? I had never felt lighter.